In what ways can educators help students with special needs develop cognitively? Educators can help students with special needs develop cognitively in a variety of ways. The most fundamental way is to make sure the student has a solid reading foundation. Providing research-based reading, writing, and math programs allows students to gain information that will allow them to go beyond factual references. Students need to be taught strategies and skills which will allow them to access higher order thinking. Students need to go beyond knowing and understanding information. They need to be able to apply what they have learned as well as analyze, then synthesize, and evaluate information. Providing students with real-life challenges which engage their reading, math, and thinking skills are the optimal method of learning. How do you teach social awareness in your classroom? Social awareness is an area which requires discussion before, after, and as social situations occur. Modeling of appropriate behavior is one of an educator's most common but least recognized teaching tools. Students need to be taught developmentally appropriate behaviors in a non-threatening environment. There are social awareness curriculum which provide academic opportunities to learn. Monitoring by peers to provide partners to help think out situations and develop appropriate responses. How do you help students with cognitive disabilities learn about social awareness and use what they have learned? Students who have cognitive disabilities vary in their ability to recognize social cues. Some students need situational scripts to help them develop the language and appropriate interactions for which the developmentally appropriate social situations. Often these actions are taken as socially challenging situations to develop in non-structural situations. Utilizing peer teams to provide weak students with additional resources and opportunities to think and discuss possible actions. How do you teach what is socially acceptable to your students? How do you develop communication skills in your students? It is most advantageous to develop socially appropriate skits with scripts to help the student develop an automatic response repertoire to daily activities. The activities should be simple, short, and safe for the participants. It is also good to make it fun and engaging. And my last question. Students with mild disabilities may lack the behavioral flexibility needed to respond to changing situations, and therefore their responses may be seen as inappropriate or non-compliant. They may use fixed or stereotypic responses to situations rather than employing a full repertoire of adaptive social skills. Some students can develop panic attacks, resistance, or withdrawal from new changes in situations or rooms or people. How do you help these students? Students with mild disabilities may have difficulties transitioning from one activity to another. The student needs to be taught skills which help them anticipate the schedule and development of appropriate behaviors. The more skills the students have, the more able they are to develop a variety of behaviors for a given situation. The use of behavioral modification techniques such as sticker charts, proximity to student, verbal praise are example of positive reinforcements which provide immediate reinforcement for appropriate behaviors.
Wow, Christy. That was the greatest interview I've ever seen.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I had the sincere privilege of interviewing Dr. Johan Clark from the University of Phoenix online. Let's take a look. Hello again, Dr. Johan Clark. First question. What might a teacher do if a delay in psychosocial development is identified? Well, thank you, Brian, for asking me such wonderful questions. I'd like to thank you and the audience for asking such a smart and educated educated person in this field. Typically, peer groups and small group sessions will assist in working on these goals. Depending on the severity of the condition, a student may need one-on-one sessions on social skills. Social stories work very well with students within the autism spectrum. They are created in the perspective of the child, use visual models within them, and give the child rules to follow. They can be created to be as simplistic or more difficult as is needed, depending on the comprehension level of the child. Another technique is videotaping children displaying appropriate behaviors. This also sets rules and guidelines for a child and gives them a visual model to follow. What emotional development indicators might suggest that a child is in need of help? We begin charting the behavior on an anti-behavior or consequence chart to see if there is a pattern in the behavior. For example, time of day, reactions, specific teachers, etc. And try to identify the function of the behavior. From there, the behavioral analyst determines what we should do in response to the behavior. It is formally placed on his or her behavior plan, and we go over as a team how to address the behavior to ensure consistency. How do you deal with serious discipline problems with your severely autistic students? The student has a sad, depressed state, crying suddenly or frequently, excessive fear or anxiety, avoids social interactions, cannot keep themselves from engaging in repetitive useless actions, consistent patterns of aggression, persistent oppositional or defiant behavior, limited self-control with impaired attention. And lastly, why is the development of social perspective critical to understanding a child's behavioral responses? And for your last question, Brian, students who are unaware of appropriate social responses will not comprehend that what they are doing is not acceptable to others. Students that are within the autism spectrum typically are delayed socially and at times never develop social awareness. Students with autism will also have difficulty understanding the perspective of anyone beyond themselves. Joint attention is a very difficult skill because these students do not comprehend that there is another perspective beyond their own. It is also critical to understand to what extent a child's social perspective is limited in order to create an intervention to assist the child in gaining the skills of this nature.
Hey guys, have you heard about IDEA 2004 and serious discipline problems?
A big part of this is decided through manifestation determination, which is a review of the relationship between a student's disability and misconduct. A functional behavioral assessment must be performed, and the IEP team needs to provide interventions, strategies, and support if a student has been suspended for more than 10 days due to a serious behavioral problem.
Wow, Jessica, that was the best interview I think I've ever seen.
This has been an educational broadcast by the Educational Morning Show.
Thank you to our sponsors, Juicy Juice, Dunkin' Donuts, and Dippy Dots.
And M&M's. And M&M's. Yum, 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 yum.
Rise with the bluebirds shine like the sun. Now's the time to rise and shine.